Gervonta Davis, what's his future in the sport? Most recently, Tank put together a solid knockout win over Frank Martin, who was a decent boxer and had some slick moves, but it was clear that Tank was just stalking his prey until the knockout fell into his lap. The number one criticism boxing fans have had about Tank is the lack of top tier opposition on his resume. He's such an entertaining fighter to watch. He has all the skills at his disposal to beat every lightweight in the world, but it's a shame that I can only name about 3 or 4 decent boxers on his record. I get that if he can fight less than stellar opponents and still generate a lot of pay-per-view buys, why wouldn't he just take the easy paydays? I understand that argument. Gervonta Davis doesn't seem to give a shit about legacy or proving that he's the best lightweight. He knows he's arguably one of the greatest boxers on the planet, and he chooses not to fight the very best guys. On the one hand, I respect that. He feels like he doesn't need to prove anything to anyone, but as illustrated in my previous video about Tank, it's 100% a case of wasted potential. Although maybe that's starting to change as the boxing community has heard rumblings of a Gervonta Davis vs Lomachenko fight getting made. To give credit to Lomachenko, I love how lean this guy's professional record is. He is the total opposite of Gervonta Davis in terms of picking pro fights. I mean, in his fucking second pro boxing match, he was challenging for a world title. Even though I think that Tank will wind up beating Lomachenko, I can appreciate that the latter has a better resume by far, and he fought the toughest guys right out of the gate. Anyway, the jump up in competition for Tank is fantastic for combat sports fans. And if this fight does get confirmed, it would also be one of the most lucrative bouts Tank has had. The truth is that we've only seen a handful of fighters in history that have been able to single-handedly sell a pay-per-view event. It takes two to tango, as the saying goes, and the same idea can be applied to generating pay-per-view buys. Boxers need the right dance partner to create hype for an event and to get people talking. Terence Crawford needed Errol Spence to sell over 700,000 pay-per-view buys, for example. You really think that Crawford has the pull to do that on his own despite his accolades? No. Even with Tank, besides the Garcia fight, who's one of the most popular boxers in the current landscape, Tank has done less than 300,000 pay-per-view buys each with lesser opponents. Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather, back in the day at least, and Mike Tyson. These are the only guys I can think of that can generate over 1 million pay-per-view buys without even a named opponent. Regardless, Tank vs Lomachenko does very well in my opinion. It should satisfy broadcasters and promoters and all that jizz. Stylistically, I think this is one of Tank's most interesting fights to date. It's a classic matchup between a master technical boxer and a massive power puncher. Lomachenko is leagues above anyone Gervonta Davis has fought before and way more difficult to figure out. He's been beaten in the past, but he's still such a terrific technical boxer. I mean, I argue he beat Devin Haney 7 rounds to 5 and also knocked out George Kambosos as recently as this year. His footwork and boxing IQ is brilliant, but so is Tank's, and the latter also has a giant equalizer, his power. Even though Lomachenko doesn't look like he's slowed down at all even at 36 years of age, will his chin hold up if or when he gets hit clean by Tank? I don't think so, but I'm fascinated by this fight regardless and the problems these guys pose for one another. Devin Haney was landing a ton of body shots in his fight with Lomachenko. Will Gervonta Davis implement the same strategy, draining the gas tank by going downstairs with huge power punches to then finish him late? Lomachenko is the master of footwork and angles. Tank is the master of knocking people out in his weight class at least. The age difference between these two fighters is a big factor, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's the ultimate deciding factor as to who's going to win this contest. I just believe it comes down to if Lomachenko can weather the storm and if his chin can hold up for all 12 rounds. Lomachenko will bank the early rounds easily and will win a very comfortable decision, if it goes to one. For Lomachenko to win, he just needs to not get hit flush by one of the best counterpunches in boxing at the moment. Easier said than fucking done. I don't think it'll go all 12 rounds, and I can see Tank knocking Lomachenko out late. Now, Lomachenko is a fantastic boxer and better than anyone that Gervonta Davis has faced so far. I'm not saying that Tank knocking out Lomachenko is a foregone conclusion. That would be a stupid fucking point to make. What I am saying is that Tank is the absolute best at downloading the data early, opening his opponents up with quality power shots, and then going in for the kill. Lomachenko will be super difficult to do this with, but he is hittable as shown in the Devin Haney fight. A lot of those rounds were close, and I believe Tank's power will get him out of there. No matter who wins, I hope this fight marks the beginning of Gervonta Davis going up against high-class opposition. As Tank comes into his prime at 30 years of age, we might be looking at a new undisputed champion in the near future. Or the Lomachenko fight is a one-off and Tank goes back to fighting guys below the top 10. Who knows?